How to count lines of code in Python excluding comments and docstrings. I want to count the lines of code in a multi-file Python project as accurately as possible, but without including comments, docstrings or blank lines in the total. I first tried using clock, which is available as a Debian package. But clock treats most docstrings as code, even though they are comments. Update: no longer. Recent versions of clock now treat Python docstrings as comments. I noticed some comments below saying that docstrings should be included in the total because they might be used by the code to influence behavior at runtime and hence count as part of the program's code data config. A prominent example of this is apply, which asks you to write functions with docstrings which, as I recall, contain grammar and regular expressions which are central to the program's operation. However, this seems to me to be very much a rare exception. Most of the time docstrings act just like comments. Specifically, I know for a fact that is true for all the code I want to measure. So I want to exclude them as such from my line counts.
Have you looked at this URL? Always been pretty on the money for me, although I do not use Python.
Comment lines can be lines of code in Python. See doctest for example. Moreover, you will have trouble to find a sensible/reliable way to consider a case like this as being a comment or code. Just count the comment lines as well. I think most programmers will agree it is as good a measure for whatever you are actually trying to measure.
It is probably correct to include Python docstrings in a lines of code count. Normally a comment would be discarded by the compiler, but docstrings are parsed. See PEP 257, Docstring Conventions. A docstring is a string literal that occurs as the first statement in a module, function, class, or method definition. Such a docstring becomes the __doc__ special attribute of that object. String literals occurring elsewhere in Python code may also act as documentation. They are not recognized by the Python bytecode compiler and are not accessible as runtime object attributes. In other words, docstrings are compiled and constitute, in a very real way, the code of the program. Additionally, they are commonly used by the doctest module for unit testing, as usage strings for command line utilities, and so on.
Taha doesn't count the docstrings. Here's its count_log function.
If you want to support the channel, please consider liking and subscribing.